Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's live. Before we get started, the first welcome everyone and thank you ulit for just being here in this live. Like every time we go in live, you guys are always here sending out really good questions, and it really means a lot when people like come here. And I know not everyone is like well research pa about the DNV, but definitely we'd hope to see you here in Spain. And this the reason why we do this lives to make sure that like as much as possible, if you guys are qualified, you would know na this is an option for you. Hi then, welcome Lakbayan. Oh, ba Lakbayan? Ayan. Yes, I'm in Alicante now. So we moved earlier this month, and it's really good here. The weather is really nice. It reminds me when I used to live also near the beach. So the weather is really nice. It's sunny most of the time, but there are some days that it's cloudy or sometimes umuulan. Pero for me that's also good because it kind of like cools down the place, but people saying it's hot here, but I have yet to feel na mainit, like Manila init or probinsya init. I don't think it's like um that at all. Nice. Diyan din kami soon. We love beaches. Aw, would be nice. There's a big community here already with people that are waiting for their application to come out, and also people that have already um submitted. So that's really nice then. But for this week's lives, we're gonna talk about the contracts because I understand I cannot review everyone's contracts because it really is a whole thing of its own, but it's one of the most important parts of establishing who you work for, how much you earn, all those type of things. Dun yun sa contract na nagbe-base. So I wanted to make sure that I give you guys the information that you would need. Ano ba yung mga kailangan na sa contract mo? Ano yung mga red flags that I can cite for as an example? So I'd be really glad to share that to you guys for this week's live. Um, we'll just probably wait a few minutes as well. But if you guys have any questions at all, please leave them down below and we'll try to answer them. Especially because I know there have been a lot of changes in UHE and how they review people's profile. So that's also something that we're gonna touch up on during this live because we understand how complicated it is, and damning documents that you might miss like a little bit. Hi Ate, I'll be in Madrid to apply via UHED. Tips in finding long-term rentals. Well, with long-term rentals, it varies per city to city kung ano yung malakas doon na app. But what I would recommend is that if you're living either in Madrid or Barcelona, it will be hard, especially since you probably don't have any proof pa of, kasi usually they ask for Spanish payslips, but they have accepted then, like for us when we were looking for apartments, what we submitted instead is yung quarterly tax and annual tax payments, and usually that would be enough. But of course for people that just came here, it would be a little bit difficult to prove yung ano nyo, financial stability. So what I would suggest is be ready with your bank statements to send that. If you have income tax returns from the Philippines or from another country, maybe also get that. It's very important that you would have a proof that you, like legal proof that you are earning this income. Sometimes they ask also for contracts, but if you're already submitting anyways for UHED, then that means your contract will be already translated. So, yun yung mostly tips ko, Idealista is really good in Madrid and Barcelona. But genuinely, sometimes it's paswertehan din talaga. Like, paswertehan ng pagkuha ng apartment and all that. Usually, they look for 3 months of bank statement to make sure that you've been earning this much for the last 3 months. Is it advisable or possible to look for long-term rentals prior to arriving? It's not unheard of. It's very like, ano though, like very rare that you get to sign an apartment or they approve you for an apartment before you arrive here or before your approval. Because sometimes they do look of your legal stay here. Like kung ano ba yung visa mo, sometimes they judge you for that. Then like what type of visa you have. And usually for DNV, it's kind of easier. Not that it's hard for freelancers, but like I said, they usually look for Spanish payslips. So I always tell people just accept the reality that your first long-term contract will not be the most or best deal na mahanap nyo. So it would either be a little bit too expensive for the area, it would not be the apartment that you want, but at least you get your padron. So I always tell people just ride it on for 6 months. And then after nun, you have your quarterly tax payments, you can present that. And now you are more equipped for apartment hunting. And always go earlier than what you think you would need for apartment hunting time-wise. Like, kung pwede ka mag-start 1 month before you move or 1.5 months before you move, that would be like much better. But going back to the topic of contracts, I want to just go down the list of usually the things that are being looked at. So punta muna siguro tayo with a lot of our viewers are independent contractors and stuff like that. So let's focus on that first. So una is that it has to be clear that you're an independent contractor, you're a freelance. So any employee verbiage in there will be flagged. So as much as possible, kailangan mo yun i-explain off either sa company authorization letter or at your letter of intent. So it has the date has to be there kung kailan siya na-signan or kailan effective yung contract date. And then of course, we have here yung effective date. So kailan nag-start yung engagement mo with this client. Other than that, of course, you have to identify the parties. So, yung full name mo has to be there. Some require yung parang ID din nila nandun, yung passport number or something. But for UHE, they don't really care much about that. It just has to be your full legal name. And then, of course, the company's name. So, if, for example, ang pangalan niya is Alex LLC, then your certificate of good standing should match that. If it doesn't match it, you have to like explain it off or the company has to issue you an amendment of your contract. Kasi kailangan match yung ano yung name ng company sa kung ano yung legal entity name. So you cannot be in contract with, for example, the individual, like the CEO. If you're working for CEOs and executive VA ka, if you are in contract with the CEO himself and not really the company, that sometimes becomes a problem. So make sure you watch out for that. Other than that, give me the internet gets a little bit better, but ayun, other than that, it would be helpful to also have your address on there or address ng company so they can verify because of course may mga magkakapangalan na company. So it's good that mag-match din kung ano yung nasa certificate of good standing dun sa company address. However, this is not really like strictly nila tong in-implement because there are companies that have multiple legal entities in different states or iba yung mailing address nila na naka-register versus doon sa address talaga ng company. So that's not gonna be that much of a problem. But it's nice to have it on there. Especially minsan nakalagay doon, this exists in legal laws of California, for example. So yung may mga ganon, you have to make sure na as much as possible, you can explain that off. Other than that, it needs to have the description of your services. So ano ba yung nire-render mo? Ano ba yung scope ng services mo? So if you are using your diploma, this is particularly important. It has to match yung ano yung nasa diploma mo. So if you graduated, for example, accountancy, it has to be na that yung scope of services mo is either nakalagay doon, blatantly na accountant ka, bookkeeper, or that nakalagay doon yung scope of services mo related to financials. Other than that, I would say to have a brief list of your job description. If it's something like general virtual assistant, executive assistant, yung mga ganon. And the way to connect them, for example, is yung company that you worked for 3 years in na hindi ka na employed ngayon is a construction company. And then now the one that you're employed with is also a construction company but iba na. Yung hindi ka na executive VA, like maybe project manager ka na or something like that. So it's important to connect those two, especially in your letter of intent. So to explain of why your 3 years of work experience is relevant dito sa new contract mo or itong contract na ng client mo presently. Other than that, of course, meron din minsan na appendix na statement of work. If meron naman dun sa contract mo, kind of what you do, you don't have to translate the statement of work. And you don't have to translate your full-on contract. Usually, itong mga points lang na to, yung pwede mong i-highlight to get it translated. But of course, if maiksi lang yung contract mo, I would suggest to just translate all of it because it would be useful then sa apartment hunting and stuff like that. Other than that, with regards sa term and termination, this is very important because this decides hanggang kailan yung visa na ibibigay nila sa'yo. Kasi of course, if nakalagay dyan na, okay, until this date ka na lang magwo-work, that means wala ka ng income afterwards. So they will only give you kung gaano kahaba yung tenure mo dito sa company na to or yung term ng contract mo. Sorry, not tenure ng company, term ng contract mo. So for example, if hanggang January 2027 ka na lang sa company na yon, nakalagay yon dun sa contract mo, they'll only give you the validity of your contract till January 2027. So as much as possible, that's why I tell people it's best to have an open-ended contract. Ano yung ibig sabihin ng open-ended contract? So that means dapat yung kontrata mo, hindi naman sa walang katapusan, but it can be terminated like 30 days upon mapag-usapan, ganon. Alam mo yun? Yung, kumbaga, nakalagay doon na until terminated or effective until terminated or notice period of 30 days. Ganon. Dapat may ganon siya. So, as much as possible, yun yung maganda na ipasa sa uhe na meron siyang parang open-ended. So, bibigyan ka nila ng full-on 3 years. Kasi, technically, based on your contract, walang end date. So, that's why it's important to have an open-ended contract when applying in UHE. Kasi sayang naman, na-approve ka na and everything. So, kailangan mo pa mag-reapply kasi hindi open-ended yung contract mo. Meaning, ang ibibigay lang sa'yo ni UHE, less than 3 years. So, for us, Filipinos, kailangan natin ng 2 years of residency for tayo makapag-apply for citizenship. And even then, sa pag-wait mo ng citizenship, kailangan active pa din yung visa mo. So, that's why I tell people, as soon as mag 2 years na, yung visa mo, or yung residency mo, dapat nakapag-exam ka na ng CCSE, which is parang yung cultural historical exam nila dito to see how well you integrated. And then, yung number 2 is yung DELE A2 exam. So, it's A2 level. So, yung pinakamababa is A1, A2, and then it goes to B1, B2, C1, C2. So, you only need the A2 level. So, as much as possible, dapat tapos mo na yon. I would say take it 6 months before you plan to apply for citizenship. Ang pinagbabasehan kasi usually ngayon for citizenship, since we've applied a couple of people na for citizenship, ang pinagbabasehan nito ay yung dun sa TIE card mo. Kung kailan na nakapagpa-fingerprint or kailan yung effective date na nakalagay doon. Other than that, with fees and invoicing dun sa contract, that's also one of the most important things, of course. So with the fees, it varies per client to client. Meron per hour, per day, per month. But kailangan doon, kung ano yung current mo, dapat yun na nakalagay sa contract mo. Let's say 3 years ka na working with this client and hindi na siya nag-issue ng new contract nung tumaas yung rate mo. I would say you have to create and have him sign an addendum or an amendment of that contract. Because otherwise, technically, yung in contract pa din kayo is yung mababa mong rate. So, kailangan i-update yon. And then, of course, it helps then dun sa company authorization letter na parang COE siya. Na meron nakalagay doon yung tenure mo sa kanila, nakalagay doon yung type of work mo, nakalagay doon yung um, compensation mo, and nakalagay doon na ino-authorize ka nila to remotely work in Spain. So, not to work in Spain, but to remotely work in Spain. Other than that, if you can also include dun sa fees and invoicing part ng contract mo, kung tuwing kailan yung payment mo. So, is it twice, every week ba siya? Every fortnightly, every monthly, you have to also put it there. So that clears din sa UHE kung paano nila i-check yung bank statements and invoices nyo. Other than that, of course, there's also some confidentiality and IP. So you have to read these clauses kasi minsan, not everyone, but minsan you cannot work for another client. And then multiple clients yung ide-declare mo sa UHE. So that's a no-no. Because if you have multiple clients and then yung isang contract mo, nilalabag mo basically yung rules ng contract na yon, then UHE will see that and will kind of deem your other contracts invalid. So as much as possible, that's why I tell na kahit hindi buong contract mo, yung ipa-translate mo. Kahit yung i-translate mo lang yung mga important parts. So other than that, napaalalahan ko naman na kayo sa confidentiality and IP. The next part is the independent status. So like I said in the beginning of this, kailangan klaro sa kanila na you're an independent contractor, you're a freelancer, you're not an employee, especially if you have multiple clients. Because otherwise, if employee, yung ano mo, the documents are a little bit different and they do judge your application a little bit differently. So as much as possible, you have to be aware of that. Other than that naman, the next part is yung governing law, which I already touched up on, but make sure that there is a specific na jurisdiction kung saan yung governing law ng company nyo. So for example, with the state or country, is like for example, the state of California, state of New Mexico, mga ganun. Kailangan nakalagay yun dun sa contract mo. Or if hindi man yun nakalagay sa contract mo, then that would be fine as long as nandun yung address ng company. Other than that, of course, it's very important that the signatures are there. Because I know some have contracts or have parang offer letters, but there's no signature. So, dapat signature mo and signature ng company or ng client yung nakalagay doon. Because otherwise, the contract is ineffective if wala kang signature doon. Ayun. I hope that's a little bit understandable. Carry naman, carry pa. Parang masyadong ano yung live ngayon, no? Masyadong technical. But definitely, if you guys have any questions, just leave them down below. This is just also so that meron tayong basis. So you can rewatch this live on YT, YouTube. YouTube, guys. You can rewatch this on YouTube and that would definitely help dun sa application nyo. Our contract date po is in 2023. Okay lang po ba yun? Yes, because that means you've been with the company for long. Like I said, kailangan, if tumaas na yung rate mo sa kanila since 2023, kailangan ng addendum or amendment sa contract mo. Because that would be important for them to know kung ano na yung in contract ka compensation wise. But if yun lang naman yung napalitan, then that's fine. Or maybe napalitan yung type of work mo. Like maybe before, you are a web developer and then now you're a product developer. So stuff like that needs to be in the addendum or in the amendment. Other than that, it's important, of course, as well that there's branding in your contract. Like if they have a header, that would be amazing. But if wala naman, that's also fine. We've had clients na walang header, ganon, or sila yung nag-i-issue ng contract instead of the company. So that's also fine. Wala namang magiging problema yon. But you have to make sure that itong contract mo is signed by both parties. Some people do forget about that. Make sure signed siya ng both parties so that pag tinranslate, nakalagay doon na firmado. Otherwise, kasi kung hindi siya firmado, then magkakaroon ng problem yon. Kasi that means either ikaw or sa client mo did not confirm with your contract. may mga documents po bang dapat hingin sa client? So like your contract, of course, if wala kayong contract ng client, the company authorization letter, and like I would say depende if like yung transfer confirmation, if wala kayong invoices or payslips, that would really help with your application. If mabait si client, you can ask for them the certificate of good standing of the company. However, this can be usually makukuha naman independently. So you can either hire a third party or you can try and get them online using like yung sa state secretary website. If my main remote work is less than 2,800, okay lang po if I have other work to supplement. If your main remote work, as long as independent contractor ka, allowed yung multiple, yung clients mo. So it doesn't have to be naiisa lang. But if you're an employee, you can only get one client. Um, what is better to submit? Certificate of good standing or certificate of incorporation for US-based client? Certificate of good standing is always the way to go. Kasi as a certificate of incorporation, it does tell when na incorporate yung company, but it does not say if active pa din yung company. Need po ba nagbabayad ng tax dito sa Pinas? Technically, no, but they do ask for proof of self-employed registration. And meron tayong mga iba-ibang documents na pwedeng i-present dyan. Like, for example, business permit, DTI, business name registration, SSS, and of course, income tax returns or yung BIR certificate of registration. My client was administratively dissolved po in 2025, but he paid the back taxes and good standing na. Then you can get the certificate of good standing na pag ganon. I'm in the UAE and the client is also in the UAE. Where do we get the certificate of good standing? In UAE, it's usually called the trade license. Um, is this okay po to submit? If in good standing na sila, that's okay to submit. As long as makuhanan mo sila ng certificate of good standing. Sa SSS certificate, okay lang po ba na voluntary yung status or self-employment po dapat? Ilang months? So, before, it was fine as long as active yung SSS mo. But now, I think they're starting to get stricter. So, as much as possible, ilipat nyo siya sa self-employment instead na voluntary. Kasi, I told you guys, they start to get stricter and stricter with their requirements. We don't even know how long they're gonna start, like, be open to accepting other proof of self-employed registration. So, as much as possible, yung SSS, kailangan self-employed na yung nakalagay dyan. Thank you so much, Alex. I appreciate the responses. No worries. Thank you so much then. That's why we do this lives because I know I cannot answer everyone's Facebook posts then sa group natin. So, what if po yung isang client ko yung nagbabayad ng government benefits ko? Pwede po ba yun? Well, then we will tag you as employed, I would think. Kasi yung SSS mo means naka-employed ka if binabayaran yung government benefits mo. So that would be a problem. If OFW and outside mag-process BIR and SSS are still required po, yes. So kahit sa OHEC ka mag-process, hinahanap pa rin yung proof of self-employed registration. So, employed, paano po gagawin ko dun? Yeah, so the thing is the employed contracts, the employed route is a bit difficult than the independent contractor route. Why? Because SSS does not provide a certificate of coverage. Certificate of coverage meaning etong company mo, kasi sila yung nagbabayad ng SSS mo and tax, kailangan silang actively maglipat ng taxes and SSS mo dito sa Spain. And a lot of companies don't want to do that because first, it's complicated and sometimes they're afraid of the tax complications it might bring the company. So, medyo mahirap siya. I think yung isa na employed ka, hindi ka mo dapat siya ipakita. Or if kukunin mo yung SSS, then you can switch to self-employed. Meron na po ba nag-try combined salary ng husband and wife? I didn't see anyone yet online who did it. Of course, not everyone is also sharing sa online. But with our clients, we don't do that kasi medyo risky siya. Kasi if ever they did ask for it, there's no law that we can cite na, okay, ito yung law nyo na pwedeng combined income si husband and wife. And they don't have that yet. So for now, it's still something more of like, let's wait until they make it official. Bale pupunta lang po ako sa SSS to change po. Yes. And then you just have to continue paying your SSS as a self-employed. That means hindi ka nababayaran nung company. Pero okay lang naman kahit minimum lang yung bayaran mo. As long as may kita doon na self-employed individual ka, that wouldn't be a problem. Ayun. Uy, sobrang mabababa yung, feel ko medyo mababa yung energy ko this week kasi it's been a lot. Um, we're doing a post soon about approvals and denials this month, and it really just like depressing. It's depressing because I've never seen who had this aggressive with denials, like parang, and because like people share their rejection letters and stuff with me as well, so I'm seeing a lot of denial reasons that didn't make sense. Well, of course I didn't submit their documents, so I wouldn't know if eto lang talaga yung meaning ng uheb. But for some, I asked them the questions and they said, yeah, like this is what we submitted, ganyan. And it's a little bit sad. So I'm trying to also give that update post so that we can inform people of like rejection reasons currently. Madali lang po ba makakuha ang mother once na magkaroon na ng residency? It depends. Is your mother elderly? Mas madali yung elderly parents, but getting your parents under the DNV has some stipulations that they're dependent on you physically, financially, or medically, ganon. Mag-register pa sa BRDTI as a sole proprietor but works as an independent contractor ano po need na requirements. Yung DTI business registration would be good. If it gets denied, how long it pwede mag-reapply? Pwede agad mag-reapply. Wala namang problema yon. Anong top rejection reason as of today, Alex? The legal entry to Spain, yung nakikita ko na problem. So if you guys don't know, they implemented the entry exit system. So that means everything yung pag-scan ng, so pagpasok mo sa border, instead na interview ka ng immigration agent to check your passport, your visa, and stamp it, wala nang ganun ngayon. So you just go through an ES parang machine, and isa-scan mo lang yung passport mo. Isa-scan ka din. So the problem with that is I think UHE hasn't catch up on the how to check the central immigration system. So there were a wave of rejections saying that they cannot verify na pumasok legally or nasa Spain yung person na to at the time of the application. Yeah, pag senior na siya, Mary Rose, that would definitely be okay. What are the main reasons for the recent denials in UHE? So yun yung I see a lot. And then they're starting to also be strict with dates sa ano nyo, sa mga documents. So they verify na yung sa SSS na dates to make sure na self-employed ka talaga. So that's why I tell people, unless diligent ka talaga nagbabayad sa SSS, I would suggest not to get it from the main branch. Though the application of getting it there is quite easy, mas better siyang kunin dun sa mga local branches and just show kung ano yung parang gusto mong nakalagay doon. Okay, and then, okay. Sinasabi ba ni Uhe ang reason of denial? Yes. Yung EES pa lang top reason now, it's better to enter Spain na agad. Yeah. Kasi if you enter Spain, nakalog doon na Spain yung pinasukan mo. Pero kasi pag pumasok ka, for example, ng Netherlands, tapos lipunta ka ng Spain, the only proof you have is your boarding pass. And sa paningin ng Spain, which is weird. But sa paningin ng Spain is that the boarding pass is not enough because it does not confirm kung pumasok ka ba dun sa airplane and dumating ka ba dito. Some people got their declaration de entrada before the ES was fully online. And still, ngayon, ang sinasabi nila is that the workers there in the Policía Nacional did not log in the central immigration system yung data. So parang nag-release lang sila ng form pero hindi nila ginawa on their end yung parang digital na pag-login. It's a lot, but hopefully we see less of those as because Ihoy is also transitioning into this new systems in place, and that's why I tell people na there's not a best time to apply, but there definitely are times like this that people should usually avoid. Pwede po ba yung Upwork contract kaso hourly po? Pwede naman sa Upwork yung contract, pero kasi ang problema sa Upwork contract is pretty vague. But unfair po sa applicants, no, kapag yung reason at ginawa naman yung tama. It is, but there are three places I will not argue in. First is an airport and a government office and at my mom's house. So those are three places I will not argue in. It's just like it's unfair and it's hard, and that's why it's medyo low energy ako kasi what can they do? Like, genuinely, what can you do? And can you imagine if it's like a client? I'm just imagining this. Like, can I imagine if it's a person that only nag-overstay na sila and 15 lang yung binigay sa kanila na Schengen visa days? That would be such a complicated case. Thankfully, this client of mine had 90 days, or they had 30 days pero they left and they had multiple entry, so that was really like a saving grace, but still this is unfair. Like, I don't know, but it's frustrating. It's frustrating, period. I don't understand the logic behind it, but it's weird that the burden of proving it is on the person applying instead of their end. So it's kind of weird, to be honest. Ayun. Okay. Paano po yung gagawin ko sa may agency po ako na naghuhulog ng SSS? Sasabihan ko po ba na wag nahulugan? Hayaan mo lang nahulugan nila. Magko-combine yun. Pero ang makukuha mo sa SSS ay self-employed certificate. So, hindi yun magkakaroon ng problema. As long as you switch na to being a self-employed individual. So, hindi siya magiging problem. Another rejection reason that we're seeing a lot of is yung bank statement na stamped or signed dapat. If you guys know and if you guys use, like digital banks, usually there's not really like a place to get it stamped or signed. So it's kind of a dead end for some clients. Now, what can they do? I We've tried this with another client and it worked naman so far with three clients kasi nabalitaan ko na to nung ano pa nung February pa. That's why I did the post. So what we did is we had it notarized. Nagpa-affidavit kami na this is a digital bank, that we cannot get bank statements from the bank itself because it's all online. So, ang maging problem dito is yung mga banks na medyo mahirap kausap, like BDO, BPI, because technically they do release bank statements, just not stamped and signed. It's electronically parang verification, which yon. Bali maghuhulog na pa po ulit ako. Yes. So, kailangan mo pa din maghulog as a self-employed. Pero technically, malaki yung magiging hulog mo kasi nagbabayad na yung employer mo or yung agency mo, and then nagbabayad ka pa. So that will really garner up pension for you, I guess. Ayun. Mas okay po ba if mag-request na lang sa ng bank statement sa mismong bank kesa online? Yes, but also the problem with this is some banks don't release stamped or signed bank statements. Especially like BPI or BDO, yun na yung bank statement nila. May nakalagay pa doon na if you want to verify this, you can contact us here or you can verify it through this QR code, something like that. But uhe is a little bit dodgy when it comes to accepting that. So what we do now is as much as possible naka-attach yung bank certificate sa bank statements. And then as much as possible both yun kailangan galing sa bank, hindi pwedeng online. But of course, if you're like wise ka kaka-receive, then that won't be a problem for you because the statements of Wise has a stamp and signature. Pioneer would be a little bit of a problem because it doesn't have stamp or signature. So you have to get it notarized.
na certified through copy. Yeah, pahigpit ng pahigpit. That is true. It's suddenly a lot. But I think it's also because ang daming nag apply. And of course, they want to lower it down maybe a little bit, yung approvals. I'm not sure. But yeah, nagpapahigpit na talaga siyang pahigpit. That's why I'm telling always people, even in the free consultation calls, na as much as possible, if qualified ka na, mag-apply ka na. Kasi sayang yung time window, if ever. If ever naman kasi, pwedeng nag-apply ka na and then just make sure you can stay here for 6 months out of the year and then make sure ka na lang magre-renew ka before matapos yung 3 years, you know. Anong bank po ma-recommend nyo na madali po makakuha ng bank statement na may stamp and signature? Wise. Always. And also kasi mabilis lang siya i-generate. And familiar sila sa Wise. So I think yun yung better instead of other traditional banks in the Philippines. Wise is good. Um, I think Maribank is also one of the banks na medyo okay. But I think it's hard kasi magpasok doon ng pera. But why so far yung walang tanong-tanong? They just accept the bank statements talaga pag wise siya galing. Kasi familiar sila about it. PayPal is also being accepted. But to be sure kasi I ask my clients to get it notarized pa din. Trying to switch my SS member pero walang self-employed. Is that the same as voluntary? Technically, they're different. I think you cannot do it online. I think you have to go to SSS. Alex, paano pag may inconsistent sa pay ni client? Minsan bi-weekly, minsan monthly. It would be a little bit difficult, to be honest, kasi yung bi-weekly, that means every 2 weeks, then yung sa monthly. I would suggest go na ang computation niya ay magiging yung mas mababa, which is yung monthly instead of bi-weekly. But kailangan sana kahit for at least 3 months maging consistent si client. So that's why I also tell people, you have to tell your clients na mag apply ka. Kasi you have to have like some leeway with them. But definitely kung iba-iba naman tong clients, like for example, yung isa nagsasend weekly, yung isa bi-weekly, yung isa monthly, that wouldn't be a problem. It's just the problem of mukhang hindi consistent yung pay mo, that would be a problem. Saan pa mas less risk mag-process? Sa BLS po ng country or enter Spain as tourist? Depende siya sa risk level. If it's easy for you to get a Schengen visa, a lot of people are like medyo madali sa kanila kumuha ng Schengen visa. I would say always apply to Spain. If wala ka talagang choice, then you have to apply sa BLS, but that means you're gonna get asked for 3 years of income tax return. Hello ate, should we transfer pa po ba yung income namin to a PH bank? What do you mean? Like pumasok sa Wise and then ipapasok mo sa Philippine Bank? That's fine. I mean, that's how you usually use it anyways. But if you use Wise na talaga, then that would also be fine. Wala namang problema either way. Ang tinitignan lang naman nila kung paano yung pagpasok ng pera galing sa client mo and then to you. They don't really look kung paano mo ginagamit yung pera and all that. Unless may kulang ka, then yeah, you need to present proof of savings. But otherwise, if hindi naman yun important, then I would just say skip it. Hmm, ayun. What are the other questions we have here? Oh, thank you then. What if pa nagsasend ako ng invoice monthly tas nagbabayad lang si client every quarter? That is fine. Wala naman yung problema as long as consistent. In Wise, is it fine that your money is in USD and you can just explain breakdown the monthly in euros? Yeah, you can accept it in PHP, in USD, in AUD, wala yung problema. Work from home ako sa global company and salary is natatax sa atin and pasok sa local bank with all the deductions. So that means you are an employee of the company. So you're not an independent contractor. Lagi ko po kasi wini-withdraw yung payout ko from Wise. Okay lang po kahit walang laman yun. Yeah, walang problema kung walang laman yun. Hindi naman nila yun maging problem. If you want to make it stronger yung case mo, then just show a bank certificate or bank statement, saan mo fino-forward. Pero alam ko kasi yung iba dyan, I mean, siyempre, hindi naman natin alam na mag-a-apply tayo, di ba, and stuff. So, pwede din naman na kasi minsan pumapasok sa Wise, minsan ipapasok sa GCash, minsan ipapasok sa ibang bank. So, gets din kung medyo unstable. So, I would just provide a bank certificate just so they can see your financial solvency, finan- financial solvency. Yeah. Medyo nabulol ng konti. But yeah, with the contracts, it's pretty straightforward, diba? So it not necessarily that it needs to state there that you are allowed to work remotely in Spain, but definitely in your company authorization letter or your COE, certificate of engagement or certificate of employment, they have to explicitly say there that they are allowing you to work remotely in Spain. How much range ng apartment sa Alicante for a family of three? For a family of three, that would be, I would say, a two-bedroom, most likely. So the range goes from 700 upwards to 1,500. We got this apartment for 800, which I think is a pretty good steal kasi it's nearby everything. And we are at the Alacant area. So it's near Gran Via and all that. And malapit lang siya sa beach. Like, it's very walkable to the beach. Once you're here in Spain for a while. Because I think 20 minutes of walking, sometimes, yung mga people, I'm like, no. But for me, kasi parang 30 minutes of walking is not that bad na. For example, po, an active OFW in Middle East and magsiswitch po for remote work setup. Then, you have to go back either home muna, or if inaalaw ka naman ng visa mo to also work remotely, then that would be fine. Sorry, ask ko yung 800 mo na apartment is two-bedroom. Yes, it's a two-bedroom. Has a separate, so this is the living room. Medyo magulo lang siya ng konti. And then we have a separate kitchen, which is big. And then we have like one bathroom. Where is better mag-apply po? Sa Middle East or Pinas pa rin? I would say sa Spain. Diretso sa Spain, ang pinakamaganda, pinaka-best. That's what I would recommend. Getting kasi dun sa consulates ng Spain, you only get 1 year and it's just a visa, not a residency. Dapat ba naka-separate yung savings at salary account or okay lang yung salary account, konti laman? Okay lang naman, konti lang yung laman ng salary account. That wouldn't be a problem. Hindi naman kailangan din na separate siya. May vacant unit pa ba dyan? Makiki-neighbor ako. Wala, I think. But if there is, I also kind of wouldn't know. Because here in Spain, they don't own usually the whole building. They own like per unit. So para siyang sa mga condo unit. Kinda, condo unit sa mga sa Pilipinas. So iba-iba yung may-ari, so iba-iba yung nagpaparenta. So the owner of my apartment actually lives in Barcelona. So that's how we kinda like got a good deal. But yeah, it would be a little bit different. Every person's apartment hunting journey is different. I would love to share a little bit about that then on another video, but iba-iba kasi talaga. But I always recommend people to, if you can get an apartment, not short term, for just either 1 month, 2 months, while you're processing, para pagkarating mo dito, hindi ka na mag-Airbnb, I would recommend that. So, hindi ka rin namamadali, na parang first apartment na makita mo, yun na yung kunin mo kasi nagmamadali kayo magka-apartment. That's what I would always say. If sa Spain po mag-apply, bale, tourist po muna kukunin namin na visa. Doesn't have to be tourist, but usually like visit visa, or it can be another digital nomad visa, ganun. What? Wait. Wait lang, guys. Ayun. Other than that, hindi naman po alarming pumasok as tourist then mag-process ng DNV. That's how it's usually done. So, that's how it's usually done. That's why kahit sa mga Americans, British na visa-free here, tourist mo na talaga yung ano nila. So, it's not like ganun talaga yung way to apply. Because basically how the digital nomad visa goes is that you apply, like you come here as a tourist and you're a remote worker and then you really like it here, you want to stay for longer. So that's why the digital nomad visa is here. Because a lot of people vacation here in Spain and they realize, oh, I really like Spain. I want to stay here for longer. So this is the way for them to not do the 9180 rule with Schengen and all that. Ayun. Think may okay. Ayan. So, I think yun lang naman in the case of paano mag-apply. And we also have this pala sa DIY guide. Ang sibling pala is hindi kasali sa dependent. Now ko lang nalaman. Yeah, siblings are not included because they are adults. So as long as they are the adult dependents, it's kind of hard to get them. So that's why with parents, they have to be elderly for you to get them. Because then it makes sense that they are dependent on you. But your siblings technically aren't dependent on you. Hindi mo sila cargo, kumbaga. Mas madami po ba requirements to process the tourist visa? Yes, because unlike the DNV, it's not a straightforward thing. It has a little bit of subjectivity to it. So, kumbaga may mga, I would say there are four things that they look for in the tourist visa. They look for your travel history, which is in travel intention mo. They look for your proof of home ties. They look at your financial stability, so kung paano ka nag-earn ng pera, and your liquidity, kung gaano kalaki yung savings mo. So they have those four things that they look, and it can be subjective. We always forget that these are humans we're dealing with. They're humans that we talk to. So sometimes pag masama yung timpla niyan, siguro ganyan, hindi maganda yung day nung nagche-check, minsan mahirap siya na, like, just to deal with. Okay, ayan. Other than that, okay. Yung translation po ba can be done outside or dapat sa loob ng Spain? Can be done outside of Spain. They have a website and we posted it dun sa Atin Spain page na basically yung translation ay meron silang listahan ng sworn or accredited translations. Mismong website ng Spain. And then, nandun din yung info nila kung paano nyo sila kontakin through email or through WhatsApp, ganyan. And then, pwede nyong isend lang yung scans ng documents nyo. And then, itatranslate nila yun. And then, isa-send back. Tapos, tsaka kayo magbabayad. Ilang months po need magstay sa Spain if tourist visa, then process pa ng DNV? Well, I would say, yung submission lang naman yung important. Kailangan active and legal yung stay mo dito for the submission period. So, for example, that means kahit 3 days ka lang dito sa Spain and then pupunta ka ng France. Ayan. I hope the sound works now. Tama ba? Oh no, wait. Rinig nyo na ba ako? Ayan, okay na. Ayun, but you're legally allowed to overstay as long as nakapagpasa ka na during valid pa yung Schengen visa mo, then it's not gonna be a problem. But if you're gonna be overstaying kasi may pending residency application ka, if na-deny ka, you have to show yung denial letter sa border. And that wouldn't give you a problem naman. Sorry, nawala pala yung sound. How po yung weather sa Alicante? Hindi naman po maraming bagyo. Hindi naman. I mean, wala pa. I haven't been here for long. I've only been here less than a month. But so far, the weather is really good. It's really nice yung apartment namin. Kasi even if, and I take this lightly, hindi siya mainit. But it's like, if it's hotter outside, like it's 20 degrees outside, yung apartment namin medyo mas malamig pa din siya, which is really nice. And we're a little bit high up, so yung hangin sobrang nice. So I don't feel na mainit. But I like going outside. We're always outside like every day. And hindi pa ako dito like nainita na, ang init, di ba? So, hanggang ngayon nga, naka-ano pa din ako, naka-long sleeve pa din. So, it's not hot. But people say sometimes parang the way they don't like Alicante. It's sunny. So, if you don't like sunny places, you wouldn't like it. But ako kasi parang I feel like I like that. Especially after the long winter. Where I feel like parang bihira ko na makita yung sun. That's why I like the weather. I've been enjoying it a lot. Okay. Mataas po ba ang rejection sa Schengen application in PH? I wouldn't know because there's 1,000 Schengen applications and 1,000 Schengen countries. So yes, there are rejections here and there, but I also would say that the approvals are also bigger. Like that's why, like yung lahat na nag-a-apply ng UHE, lahat yan nag-tourist visa. So in a way or another, they applied for a Schengen visa. Okay. Yung elderly father dependent is with me na in the UAE. What proof of dependency can I prove? Have to prove that you guys have been cohabitating, have been living together, that he is financially dependent on you, if possible, medically dependent on you, na ikaw yung legal ward or guardian niya. That would work then as well. Usually, yun yung mga pinaprovide naming proof. Okay. Possible po ba na pumasok ng Spain under tourist visa, then submit application for DND, then labas ulit while waiting for the result? Yes, you can. Other than that, ano po yung mga requirements for Schengen visa? It varies per Schengen country, but you can look it up either sa BLS, VFS, TLS websites. It's all online. Hindi naman sila yan nagtatago. You know, like same with the DNV. It's also up there online. It's just yung DIY guide ko also explains the process of submitting it and ano ba yung hinahanap nila. Kung ito ba apostilled or sworn translated, dapat ganon. Okay. Ayun. Other than that, I would say rejection-wise, mas mataas pa rin siguro yung Schengen visa rejections kesa DNV. Kasi yung DNV naman din, it's pretty straightforward what they're asking of you. But of course, especially sa Filipinos, minsan may mga client kasi na hindi consistent magbayad, yes, or maybe hindi sila in good standing. So, may mga ganun so, sometimes na problema. But that's why I always tell people, especially if magdi-DIY kayo, as much as you can, kailangan na bigyan nyo allow nyo yung sarili nyo for time and be organized as possible. I don't know what works with you, if it works na naka-Excel sheet or it works na nagsusulat kayo. For me, I like taking down notes. You'll always see in my lives, I have like notes and papers in front of me. For me kasi I'm very tactile. Kailangan, like, sinusulat ko yung kailangan kong gawin and stuff. So, for me, whatever works with you as long as you stay organized, that would be 100% the way to go. Nag-expire po bang apostille given na attested na rin sa Middle East country? Yes, it does. It does expire. It has an expiration of 6 months. Since pinanotarize na po ang bank statements na DSTA, need pa rin ba ipa-apostille yun? No, you don't. Do I need to process it again? If more than 6 months now from your application, then yes, you need to attest and legalize it again. So, yung tawag po, if sa UAE galing yung documents, is attestation and legalization. Yun po ang tawag sa kanya. And usually, same lang din naman yung listahan ng documents. So, you need yung trade license showing na freelancer ka, or if you have an equivalent na coming from the Philippines, that would be fine as well. Kailangan nung police clearance or certificate of good conduct, and then kailangan attested yun and legalized. So it's kind of the same documents that you need to provide. Hindi naman masyadong malaking difference. If you've been in UAE or in another country for more than 5 years, then you don't need your NBI clearance anymore. You can just use yung police clearance from your country of residence. I hope that is a little bit clearer. Ayan. Other than that, that's really it for this live, to be honest. Because the contract is, like I said, it's pretty straightforward, but I just want to put it out there then that this is how you do your contract. Ito yung mga kailangan, ito yung mga need na nakalagay doon. I have two jobs, isa dito sa UAE, isang remote part-time. Okay lang po ba yun? If your job in the UAE, if your visa does not permit you to have a part-time job, that would be a problem. What I would say is, uwi ka muna ng Pilipinas, wait for 3 months, tsaka ka mag-apply. Kasi if makita ng uhe, for example, naka-student visa ka, you're not allowed to work, for example, then they will tell na hindi, kung doon pa lang sa country of origin mo or dito pa lang sa saan ka galing, hindi ka na sumusunod sa rules, then that would be a problem. How much is needed for this pathway po? So for the digital nomad visa, you have to have part-time work, remote work. You have to be either an independent contractor, an employee of a company, allowed yung multiple jobs if independent contractor ka, but you have to have or meet the minimum income requirement. The minimum income requirement breakdown, I have a video pinned in my profile, so that kind of explains then for each families gaano kalaki yung kailangan mo ma-reach. What if same company kami ng husband ko? Pwede ba mag-apply at pagsamahin ang income namin? It depends. Because the problem there is that kailangan yung contract, yung COE, and everything is under one name. If makausap niyo yung client niyo, then pwede yan. What if naka-freelance visa dito sa Middle East and working remotely? Not allowed po. If it's a freelancer visa, then yes, you can apply. Definitely. Wala yun magiging problema. Yeah, thank you then so much. Lucky me. Ang cute naman ng name mo. Lucky me. Ayun. But definitely, I would say na if you have, for example, mga family here in Spain or other parts of the EU, I would say you go for the visit visa. Usually, if hindi sila pasado for tourist visa, my clients do visit visa. And then, kailangan lang ng invitation letter na legal. So, here in Spain, it's called Carta de Invitación. And then, for example, sa ibang countries, it would be different. But usually, nakukuha to either sa polisiya or sa immigration office. Isahang papel na lang ba dapat nakalagay yung contract at authorization to do remote in Spain? Separate siya. Okay lang po ba sole proprietor sa Philippines? May laundry biz kami and freelance pasok po sa minimum. If you're doing like freelancing, then definitely. If pasok sa minimum income requirement, that wouldn't be a problem. But if you're gonna be relying on your income for your laundry business, that wouldn't work because you need to be in contract with a company. And technically, your freelance business, you own that company. So it would be a problem because it's not it's not income, it's revenue. So those are completely different things. Okay, thank you po as always. Oh, thank you din po so much. Wait, inom lang ako tubig, guys. Mag-leave lang kayo ng question dyan. Ayun. Ayan, thank you. Hello po, have you started your digital nomad life in PH before moving to Spain? Yes, so I've been a freelance worker for almost 4 or 5 years before I applied. What's the best platform to find a short stay apartment in Alicante? I found my 2 apartments in Idealista. So, I always like Idealista talaga yung maganda. But it varies kasi per place, depending sa place na you want to stay in. Some also recommend Badi, that's BADI. And then there's also Spota Home. So may iba-iba. But my clients, for example, in Madrid, if mag-isa lang sila and they're looking for roommates, they said Spota Home is really great. Thank you po. Freelance alone income po is pasok sa minimum. Yeah, then that wouldn't be a problem. I think makakapasok naman kayo. But definitely guys, if you want a more personalized consultation, I do have my free consultation calls as well. Oh, thank you so much, Bricks. Oh, ganyan, be. I have my free consultation calls as well. The link is in my bio. And if you want the free DIY guide, nasa bio ko din yun. So definitely come check that out. Yeah. Pwede na ako mag-inquire sa Idealista na kahit nasa page pa ako. Wait lang ha. Because if I'm not mistaken, you need a Spain phone number for Idealista. Yeah, I think you need it. But you can definitely maybe let me check. Pero ang alam ko kailangan ng let me look ha. Mag-in private window ako. I think you do. Kailangan mo ng phone number. But you can look around na sa Idealista. But I think some clients were able to get it kahit wala silang phone number. So I'll try to message you later, Ellie. Marami po bang Pinoy sa Alicante and safe po ba dyan? Yes, maraming Pinoy sa Alicante. Safeness-wise, how would you say safe? Because it is safe. I go walk my dog at like 1 a.m. sometimes and I don't feel scared kasi I feel like there are enough street lights, and the policia here and I've lived in Barcelona for almost my whole life here in Spain. So it is definitely more chaotic there, and even there I still feel safe. Actually, mas gusto ko here in Spain kahit gabi kasi parang ang daming tao sa labas, which I like, and I like the noise. I people are like, oh, gusto namin ng tahimik and stuff, and I'm like, no, I want noise kasi gusto ko siya parang katunog ng apartment ko sa Manila na I can hear, like buzzing noises, like people outside, just random noises. Like that's what I like. Location wise, I like it to be busy and ayoko masyadong desolated. So that's why also people say Alicante is definitely smaller than Barcelona, right? But at the same time, because it's so alive, especially since it's summer season, there are a lot of tourists right now. Magkano po balikbayan box from Spain to Pinas? Hindi ko po sure kasi hindi pa po ako nagpapadala ng balikbayan box. How about Gihon? Gihon, a lot of Filipinos are also there. And a lot of families are there. So I would assume it's safe. Because why would they bring their kids there? So I think it definitely is safe there as well. And we have clients that are also in Gihon. No tambays and crime rate is low. There's not a lot of like homeless people here in Spain. You'll only probably see them at night. Kasi may minsan nagtutulog sila sa mga park. And stuff like that. Crime rate wise, it is fairly low. I mean, you can definitely look this up online as well, but the crime rate here is fairly low. How much ang average 2-bedroom apartment rental sa Alicante? Based on me looking, because I naurat din ako for like a month looking for apartments, but it ranges from about 700 to probably, if you want Benidorm, mga ganon na places, like medyo yayamanin na places, I would say around 1,500, ganon, yung mga price. But you can get something for as low as 700. I got my apartment for 800. I wish I could do a house tour, but it's messy right now. It's messy right now, or at least messy in my standards. But I would love also a tour of the apartment maybe when people are here because I don't really know what to say. I don't really know what to say. I'm so awkward. Planning to transition from an office worker to a digital nomad. Any tips? You have to upskill and learn your trade. So if you're going into accountancy, bookkeeping, you have to learn the trade. You have to also, I would say, to realize that it's not as stable as office work. But of course, the pay is really great. So save up while you still have that client. Yun yung lagi ko sinasabi. Sometimes freelancing doesn't work on people because money mindset. Like you have to be saving. You cannot upgrade your lifestyle the moment tumaas din yung pera mo. So, like that's something I always, kasi nakakasilaw nga naman to earn suddenly this high, especially if you work from the government or something like that. But it's always good to save up. Ang always kong goal is 3 months of gastos, like comfortable na gastos for 3 months. Because I know I can find a client in 1 month if ever mawala tong client ko. However, just in case, everything is like, like going crazy, then at least I have 3 months of savings. And you just add into it. And then you earn and then you save for 6 months na emergency fund. And then you save for a year emergency fund, and then you start investing. So that's what I would always recommend. Freelance is not for the faint of heart. It's hard to find clients, especially right now. But I believe in you. I'm surprised and overwhelmed with the amount of Filipinos that are already here under DNV. I'm like, wow, like if this is possible for these people, why can't it be you? So as much as possible, kailangan lang to do the grind. And I can give tips all day, but ultimately you just have to get out there. You have to see what works for your field, for yourself. If bad ka into employee type relationship, then maybe you can do project wise na stuff. Or if you feel like you're weak with interviews, with calls and stuff like that, then maybe you'll do better with improving like your proposals and your portfolio and all that. Hope that helped. Hi din Vanessa. Over 10 years freelance na po and a family of 5. Mahirap po ba maghanap ng work dyan? Let's say for my husband. It would depend if ano yung trade niya. But ultimately, it's easier to find a job here in Spain if you're not like looking for sobrang high paying. It's easy. Like there are a lot of like restaurant jobs, a lot of like parang HIM type of jobs here, but also a lot of tech jobs are available in Madrid because I look from time to time then. House tour next time. Huy, Bricks, punta ka muna dito, tas ikaw yung i-house tour ko agad. Zaragoza. Zaragoza is also pretty, but it's pretty expensive there now. Because we tried to look there as well when we were planning to move from Barcelona to somewhere else. Thank you po. Oh, no, you're welcome. Dami ko palang kuda dito, no? Tapos, umalis na pala ng live si Kuya. But yeah, definitely, I would say the journey, it's not gonna be as straightforward, not just for freelancing, but also in the process of DNV. Kasi there are a lot of like things right now that are changing. And July, August, usually those are the time that they change new rules. And hopefully we'd be able to catch on, Jobs are out there, but you need to speak Spanish. Yeah. That's why while the main applicant is busy dealing with everything, I think the dependents should be busy learning Spanish, especially if you're bringing kids here with you. You don't want to alienate them. You don't want them to have a hard time here. So, as early as you decide na okay, magdi-DNV tayo, I think you need to give them more support to learn Spanish. I've always seen a lot of our clients with their kids, and yun talaga yung maganda yung success rate nila sa dito. And kids, they will get used to it because they're the ones that will be forced to speak Spanish almost all day to interact and all that. So I think they won't have problems, but definitely with adults, I mean, even with me, I don't consider myself old yet, but I already feel ang hirap nung mag-code switch with your brain, speaking a new language. So as early as you can to learn Spanish, that would be the best. And it really helps then to connect with locals here, and it helps with your process here sa pagsasettle in to learn at least a little bit of Spanish. They really appreciate it. They're really nice here when it comes to like speaking Spanish. I would say the older the people are, the nicer they are and more accommodating they are to speak Spanish with you, to speak slowly with you, to just like move you forward. um just yesterday I realized that like it's rare that I get corrected by people my age for my Spanish than like older people. But they're always nice with how they correct your enunciation, your words. They're always so nice. Any advice how to find an apartment? Planning to fly by this year as DNV. We did talk about that earlier in the live, but definitely finding an apartment is a journey of its own. But I would say start as early as you arrive here. Pag nakasubmit na kayo, eto na yung next yung problemahin. Always assume that it's a positive response that you'll be able to get approved so that eto na yung next yung yung problemahin after approval. It's really helpful to get a head start and do it earlier than what you think you need more time. So at least madidiscover nyo din on okay, asan yung mga magagandang places, ano yung paano sila kausapin on looking for apartments, ganyan. Kasi for me, it's a little bit hard because I have a pet with me and I'm alone, so I actually just wanted a one bedroom. But here in Alicante, the price of a one bedroom is almost similar to a two bedroom. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna get a two bedroom. Can you cite a few things to consider before entering a remote contract? You have to research the company before you get in contract with them. You have to, of course, know the workload. And you have to talk to them on how specific yung expectations nila when it comes to workload, kung ano ba yung gagawin mo day to day, and ano yung gagawin mo like long term. Ayun. Okay lang ba sa mga native Spanish na gagamit ka ng translation app while talking to them? Yes, like I said, they're very nice when it comes to accommodating you and trying to teach Spanish to you. They're very nice. I would say the only probably people that are a little bit harder to talk to are bureaucracy related stuff. So if nahirapan kayo kumuha ng TIA appointment and the TIA appointment is like so important to you, I'd suggest bringing a translator with you. Mahal po dyan. Is this a question or is this a statement or a question? If naka-DNV ba, pwede mag-part-time dyan? No. Only your dependents that are adults can work here. They work here full-time, no cap yung hours or anything. But you as the main applicant are not allowed to work here. So, at all. Hindi ka allowed to work here. Because that's the whole point of DNV. They're opening it to remote workers that do not compete with the local job market. So you pay your social security and taxes without competing with the local job market. So as much as possible, don't break the rules, guys. So it won't be harder and harder to apply. So ayun lang naman. So that's why I keep that reminder. Because in case that you guys don't know the rules for it then as well. Ayan, welcome for people that just arrived. But definitely thank you for this week's live. If you guys don't have any questions, or if may questions pa kayo, I have a lot of videos on there that maybe you can rewatch and comment if you have any questions. Maybe kahit hindi related dun sa video, and I'll definitely try and make a video out of it and answer your questions. Thank you so much again for watching and have a great rest of your weekend. And if you guys have any questions, just message me lang din if you don't want to like post it. Thank you so much, May May. No problem at all. But yeah, I hope to see you guys here again next week. And we're doing meet up with people that are living in Salamanca and Madrid. We were supposed to do it May 16th, but I think they may ganap daw sila around that time. So we're still like look for the recent post on Facebook, on our Facebook DIY group. If you guys want to enter our WhatsApp chat, if you want to see us and meet other people. Kasi ang ano ko, especially here, for example, in Alicante, magkakapit bahay na pala sila, hindi nila alam. So, as much as possible, let's try to build a community here of, like-minded individuals. And yeah, the name of the Facebook group is in the link in my bio. It's DIY Guide for Spain Digital Nomad Visa. The entry requirements are unbelievable. Ang laki ng salary requirement. Yeah, but a lot of people are here already with that salary requirement. So I wouldn't say it's impossible, but definitely it takes a little bit of work or a lot of work, depending on you guys right now in your freelancing journey. But it took me like 4 years before I was able to meet the minimum income requirement kinda. So, like it takes a while to get there, but once you get there, hopefully the DNV doors open up for you. So, thank you so much for watching the live again, guys, and have a great rest of your weekend. Bye.